Hong Kong, home to 6 million people and just as many questions. In 4 days, the world's richest colony goes from British to Chinese control.
After July 1st, 1997, Hong Kong is no more as a Hong Kong. Hong Kong is finished.
Tonight, a News 10 special examines this moment in history and what it will mean for Hong Kong and Northern California. Hong Kong, return to China.
Hello from Hong Kong, a borrowed city living on borrowed time. I'm News 10 Cynthia Gouw, and thanks for joining us. The entire world will be watching when Hong Kong is handed over to China on July 1st, 1997. This strategically based seaport has always been a coveted place. For more than 150 years, Hong Kong has been under British control. And now, this year, it'll be once again part of China. Finishing touches put on the largest convention hall in Asia. A gigantic clamshell the size of 6 football fields built especially for the handover ceremony.
A special venue for a special moment, the return of Hong Kong to China.
More than 4,000 journalists and 500,000 tourists will witness one of the last great spectacles of the 20th century. On the stroke of midnight on June 30th, 1997, China resumed sovereignty over Hong Kong, ending more than 150 years of British colonial rule. In the 1940s, Britain forced China to hand over much of Hong Kong after the Anglo-Chinese War, also known as the Opium War. The island became a safe haven for thousands of Chinese refugees who escaped persecution, Japanese invaders, and communism. The new immigrants miraculously transformed Hong Kong in one generation from an economy based on cheap labor to one based on brain power and technology. Hong Kongers survived major turmoil and political change in the past and succeeded. When the People's Republic of China takes back Hong Kong, it'll be yet another transition. But this one will have the most lasting impact. It is Hong Kong's date with destiny. July 1st, 1997.
After July 1st, 1997, Hong Kong is no more as a Hong Kong. Hong Kong is finished.
Hong Kong in the 21st century will share China's destiny.
China's destiny, that of an authoritarian regime, a communist country, a land haunted by the legacy of the Tiananmen Square massacre, where hundreds of pro-democracy students were killed. Now a clock in Tiananmen Square counts down the days when China takes Hong Kong back from Britain. The impending handover sends the frenzied pulse of Hong Kong residents even higher. In fear, China will choke off Hong Kong's vital lifeblood of freedoms enjoyed as a British colony. For now, free enterprise courses through the veins of these majestic islands, adorned with the most Rolls-Royces per capita and most expensive rents in the world. A 2-bedroom flat rents for $10,000 a month, and there's a waiting list. Huge amounts of money and human capital at stake. But international jitters about China's takeover of Hong Kong sends shivers all the way back to Northern California.
The fear of looking at what has happened in mainland China and worrying that this may, after the honeymoon is over, happen in Hong Kong.
Fear and uncertainty means Hong Kongers have their escape routes planned. In fact, half of China's hand-picked Hong Kong provisional government members own homes and property in other countries. And an estimated 1 million people here got foreign travel documents, just in case things go wrong.
And they have those in their back pocket.
Back from Sacramento, Winnie and Ken Lung are part of Hong Kong's powerful banking elite. Both educated in California, Winnie is Sacramento State's Alumni of the Year. Ken also honored for his Sac State contributions. They still maintain a home in Sacramento's Greenhaven area, just in case.
I think most people that have means in Hong Kong are considering of taking another alternative, elsewhere. as we all know that we shouldn't put all eggs in one basket.
China is already tipping Hong Kong's fragile basket. When China takes over, critics of the government will be guilty of a criminal offense, sent to prison or executed. So with so much at risk, why do people stay in Hong Kong? For many, it's the pounding pulse of money that powers this economic machine with a population smaller than Rhode Island. A muscle machine made up of interconnected air-conditioned passageways in this city of the future. Hundreds of thousands of commuters take the Star Ferry every day. It's just one example of the intense commitment to business, putting Hong Kong's annual growth numbers at around 8%, more than twice the rate of the U.S.
Asia is just an enormous potential market because it does mean jobs in California.
And U.S. and California companies have a major stake in Hong Kong's future. $14 billion of U.S. money is invested here, and more than 100 California companies have set up shop. It's a lesson in economics the British colonials already learned in Hong Kong.
We're now the 8th largest trading community in the world, the 4th largest if you take the European Union as one. It's a terrific success story.
But a clue to the outcome of the story may lie in this ancient Chinese symbol. It means danger, but also opportunity. So for now, business is bullish, property values soar, stocks are strong. It's been an incredible smooth sail for the business economy for Hong Kong. In fact, when the colony is handed back to China come July, it will be kept afloat with more than $300 billion in reserves. Despite the money in the bank, for many, Hong Kong's future isn't a safe bet. China's dissidents warn if there's no free political system,
there's no free economic system. It's very simple.
and simply put, no soothsayer on the street has Hong Kong's destiny clearly in hand. As the sun sets over the South China Seas, will it be a new dawn for Hong Kong once China takes over, or a political nightmare? A look at the human rights debate when we come back. The noonday gun blasts every day here in Hong Kong, but on July 1st, it will signify the handover to China. Some fear it may also signal the end of human rights. The haunting cries of dissent still linger after China's soldiers massacred hundreds of pro-democracy students in Tiananmen Square in 1989. Many fear the same fate awaits the people of British Hong Kong after July 1st, 1997. But many won't accept that fate.
We will fight to the end.
Human rights activists say once Hong Kong becomes part of China, that billions in California money will help prop up China's communist government.
Uncertainty, definitely. There's a lot of uncertainty in Hong Kong.
But despite the uncertainty, many California businesses see an absolute golden opportunity in China, the world's largest untapped market. Hong Kong is already the gateway to Asia and will soon be a larger gateway to China and its cheap labor pool. But the U.S. State Department says the price for doing business with China may be too high, saying China's use of torture, intimidation, arrest, and forced exile effectively silenced the voices of dissent. But dissidents who've escaped China's fury so far are fighting back. Harry Wu, a former prisoner of China's forced labor camps. China's exiled labor leader, Han Dongfang, tortured in prison. And Hong Kong's Democratic leader, Martin Lee, whose outspoken rhetoric enrages Chinese officials. Their stories reveal China's destructive power, which they hope convinces the West to help China do the right thing. This is exclusive undercover video of China's forced labor camps for political prisoners. It was shot by Harry Wu of Northern California. For nearly 20 years, Wu slaved away in forced labor camps just like these prisoners, starved to only 80 pounds. Chinese interrogators told him it was for his own good, reform through hard labor.
We sentence you 10 years is not only punishment. We want to help you. Help you become a new citizen, a good citizen in our communist society.
And help him better appreciate the communist teachings of Chairman Mao. Now Wu realizes how much he was brainwashed.
We believe communism is our future, our heaven. We believe Mao is our God. Everything we listen to him. And after 40 years, Jesus, this is a joke. There's no religious at all. Totally crashed.
He warns China will continue to crush the human spirit and says its promises of reform are written in blood.
Check their record. Is any time they keep promise? Never. Second, so-called one country, two systems. One country first, communist country, communist system.
China promises two political systems in one country. The Hong Kong region under a democratic system and the rest of China under a communist system. Despite human rights abuses, the U.S. grants most favored nation trading status each year to China, an emerging economic powerhouse. Meanwhile, Wu says it's hypocritical the U.S. boycotts smaller markets like Cuba and Iraq, who also have human rights violations.
I don't think this is a...
Now he urges Californians to boycott products made in China's forced labor camps, which are usually rubber shoes, hand tools, and toys.
Toys mostly is deliver your love, deliver your kindness as a gift. If you find that toys is made by some people's blood and tears, can you afford it?
Torture at the hands of China's government shattered Han Dongfang's life. We spoke with the charismatic founder of China's trade union movement after he was forcibly exiled to Hong Kong. As a political prisoner in China, a so-called doctor came to cure him of his dangerous ideas, purposely exposing Han to tuberculosis. Meanwhile, prison guards shoved an 8-inch needle through his hand.
You know, the first things, if you go to Chinese jail, you have to forget, which is you are not a human being. I still believe I have my personal right. I am a human being. So that makes them angry.
Now he's angry that deplorable working conditions still exist in China. California consumers benefit with low-priced goods.
It was absolutely wrong, terribly wrong.
Here in Shenzhen, China, a special economic zone near the border, about 100 workers died in a fire this year after their usual 17-hour shift. The factory doors bolted shut. With these conditions in China, California leaders have reason to believe that China won't honor its promises that Hong Kong will retain its current freedoms.
It is less than the total freedom that we would enjoy.
Already, China vows to roll back political freedoms come July 1st. Opposition parties effectively outlawed. Any criticism of the government, a criminal offense. But that won't stop Martin Lee. He is the most important and outspoken democratic leader in Hong Kong and China's public enemy #1. In a trip through Sacramento and on to Washington to meet with President Clinton, Mr. Lee seeks local support.
And I want people all over the world to keep watching Hong Kong, to make sure that China knows that all the eyes of the world are on Hong Kong. I think this is our only hope in the future.
Hong Kongers hope and pray for the best, but it's a dangerous game of smoke and mirrors. And while China can only win, Hong Kong has much to lose. July 1st, 1997 is Hong Kong and China's fiery date with destiny. But will their hearts and minds beat as one? Coming up, Hong Kong's Golden Mile is a perfect example of the city's love for capitalism. But when China takes over in July, some fear the communist government will cut into profits. is a prime example of the capitalism that has lured many California companies here. When Hong Kong reverts back to China, many business leaders hope it'll open new doors to a communist country that has been difficult to tap into. Hong Kong, the busiest port in Asia, offers everything, especially money.
Now the fish is all here. The best thing to do is for Californians to come here and bring out their nets and wrap up all the money.
To California businesses, it's a gold mine, and the time is right to go prospecting.
It's a booming market, what I describe as an explosive market.
That's because Hong Kong traditionally serves as California's gateway to Asia. Once Hong Kong reverts to China, the pot gets even richer. With only 6 million people, tiny Hong Kong is California's 9th largest export market. In fact, Hong Kongers bought $3 billion worth of California goods last year. But here in China, this country has 1/5 of the world's population, but ranks only 16th in terms of California's export markets. But there are many more Central California products that China could use, from our cutting-edge environmental technology to our rich agricultural products. And China's companies have the money to pay. This once strictly communist state is now adopting some free market principles. Here in South China, it's been a fruitful marriage, creating newfound wealth for some. Pricey cars choke this Guangzhou hotel's parking lot. Simon Liu, one of the most powerful men in South China, shows off the chopper pad on top of his 80-story hotel, the tallest in the region. He says after reunification, China will benefit greatly from Hong Kong's strong U.S. and California connections.
From this part of the world to this part of the world.
Some Central Californians are already tapping in to China's market.
We're doing multi-million-dollar on this.
West Sacramento businesswoman Margaret Wong has many multi-million-dollar deals through Hong Kong and into China, making her company one of the fastest growing in the state.
I think with Hong Kong turnover to China in July 1997 is going to give California more opportunities to get into China. Because Hong Kong, now they become part of China, and the Hong Kong people are extreme good entrepreneurs and they are survivors.
More than just a survivor, she secured a $22 million contract to sell California technology and electric bikes in China. Central California's bounty is also being served at China's table. In this opulent hotel in South China, Gouw wines showcased. It's the toast of China, says Gouw Wine's distributor in Hong Kong.
Gouw and us, we had an initial campaign about 6 months ago to start launching our product there, and it became very, very successful. So now I think our wine is one of the top sellers now in many parts of China.
These success stories are proof that California's businesses can break into China's market. But while these entrepreneurs make inroads, it's still a perilous path. Tapping into the Asian market requires strong business connections. More than 100 California companies have offices here. When we come back, we'll examine the California connection and see if it's strong enough to be profitable after July 1st, 1997. Here at the Temple Street Market, bargaining skills are sharpened to the razor's edge with the unbridled enthusiasm for capitalism. But insiders say that California might be losing out on the action. The state of California trade offices in Hong Kong tries to pave the way for companies doing business in China.
The companies want to do business here, they must have a long-term strategy to deal with and to deal with the political and economic uncertainty.
There are also tough economic waters to tread.
Right now, we have quite a serious competition to face from European companies, from Canada, from Australia.
Countries which actively pursue the China market. Despite a recent trip to Asia, Governor Wilson admits California hasn't done enough.
I would recommend to my successor, whoever that may be, that I think the next governor should go to Asia in particular.
But some won't wait for officials to lead. They venture out on their own. American Dominic Ling of Sacramento moved back to Hong Kong to cast his financial net.
I think California needs to recognize that the future is in the Pacific Rim, and Hong Kong is the perfect conduit, and this is where the fish is.
But those who've experienced snags in their previous dealings with China's authoritarian government are cautious. Many shelter their money elsewhere, and that could benefit Central California. The 12 Bridges Golf Resort in Lincoln, already financed by Hong Kong's Miramar Corporation. They have millions more to invest.
Particularly in places where we're familiar with, and as I said, in the Central Valley, in California.
Many Hong Kong companies diversify their investments in California so China can't cut into profits. But for some California companies, the lure of China's massive untapped market is irresistible. They want the U.S. to continue granting most favored nation trading status to China so business can flourish. Many U.S. lawmakers agree, saying providing economic incentives to China is the best way to protect human rights. But other U.S. leaders say we're going too easy on China and should make it address human rights issues first and then be rewarded.
Beijing now regards the U.S. government as a paper tiger, not only on human rights, but also on everything else.
Many Hong Kongers are cautiously optimistic and excited about the handover to China. But still, persistent questions remain. Will China keep its promise? Will political freedoms and free speech be preserved? Will human rights be protected? What we do know is the whole world has a stake in Hong Kong's future and will want it to remain prosperous. July 1st marks a new era here, but it'll take much more time to write the next chapter in Hong Kong's history. I'm Cynthia Gouw, and thanks for joining us.